Hey, what's up guys, TechTime here, and I've made a video where I talked about the things that I like about the Galaxy A17, but I feel like I have to play the devil's advocate and talk about the things that I'm not really a big fan of when it comes to this device. And trust me, there are some that may not seem like a major concern, but other things that are actually will raise major concerns. So let's start light. Let's talk a little bit about the design. And this is a category that for the most part is a subjective category. You either like the design or you don't. My problem with it is that it's kind of a almost a repetitive design. Samsung has not been really working a lot on changing the design of this phone. The A16 and the A17 may look slightly different, but the only way that you'll be able to tell is because of the camera cutout and the matte finish versus the glossy material that was found on the previous generation. So really the changes are subtle, they're not really dramatic. So if you're just thinking about buying this phone just strictly for the design, I'd say save your money. It's not really worth it. So a boring design is something that, again, it may not be the end of the world for everyone, but I wouldn't recommend upgrading just strictly on the design. Not much has changed. Now, the other category that I want to talk about, in which I think is a little bit more of a major concern, is the fact that the performance is just not it. It genuinely is such a, I would say, low mid-range performer. So they didn't really change much from the previous generation, and the reason I say that is because it uses the same processor, the same amount of RAM, which is only 4 gigabytes. For phones that are going to rely heavily on AI, since AI is the future, having only 4 gigabytes of RAM is just not acceptable nowadays. A 5000 milliamp hour battery is still pretty good for the most part, it lasts all day, but this phone, after a month of using it, I noticed it glitch out a little bit more, especially when you put heavy apps on there, and if the load is heavy because of just that small 4 gigs of RAM, it's not going to act right. And that's unfortunate. So that's also something to bring up. The other thing that I want to talk about is the lack of wireless charging. And we see phones that are in a similar price point starting to add wireless charging to their devices. Again, it's not really the end of the world. I still would live without wireless charging, but for a phone at this price point and a company as big as Samsung, I feel like that's something that they should have added. But I'd rather sacrifice wireless charging for better performance anyway. Now, the other thing that I want to say that I'm not really a big fan of is the camera upgrade itself. While Samsung did tune out the camera interface a little bit, meaning that you get slightly better pictures than the previous generation, as far as the video goes, you still only max out at 1080p at 30 frames per second. When you look at other rivals, they do offer 4K. And I'm not saying that this phone should offer 4K. I believe that if you're buying a phone at this price point, 4K video is not your highest priority. But imagine putting 1080p 60 frames per second or something like slow-mo to add a little bit more fun to the camera experience. And again, a company as big as Samsung, I feel like they could have done that. Now, to me personally, because of the performance issues that I have with this phone, I really feel like if you have the A16, just don't waste your money on the A17. Wait for the A27 or the A37 and save up a little bit more money and spend that on that. Now, overall, here's my bottom line. The Galaxy A17 is a solid for everyday phones. However, the performance, the camera versatility, the lack of wireless charging just doesn't do it for me personally. But if you feel like if you're coming from like something like the Galaxy A15 or the A14, then I still recommend the A17, but I'd still tell you, if you have a little bit of extra money, look elsewhere. So with that being said, I mean, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the topic. What do you think? Do you think the A17 is worth it after all, or you feel the same way that I do? Let me know in the comments below. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I do appreciate you all, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you all for watching.